Okay. I'm going to go ahead and mute all of the participants' lines. So if you want to join the discussion, go ahead and press *6 on your phone. Otherwise, it will be muted so that we don't have a lot of noise on the line. So.
All guests have been muted. You can unmute your line by pressing *6.
All right, so thanks for joining us. This is actually going to be a really fun class, and it's actually one that's been requested quite a bit. Everybody asks us, what do you send, when somebody asks you for more information? And we like to send a physical information package that includes a number of things, and we also use that package for a number of other purposes, and putting together a good one is really, really helpful. So we definitely like to do that. John, did you have anything to add to that before we get started? You need to press *6 to unmute your line. Is it not working? I still can't hear you. I'm sorry. Can you hear me? Let me try unmuting all the lines and see if that will work. One moment.
All guests have been unmuted.
All right, you're unmuted. Everybody's unmuted, so.
Start again. So mute everybody.
Start again. Okay. All right, so yeah, basically we were talking about information packages. Hopefully you heard that. Have you not been able to hear me at all?
Yes, I have.
Okay, good. All right, so I won't repeat that, but did you have anything to add before we get started?
Nope, you're doing good.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. So technical difficulties aside, information packages are really important because they provide a physical something in a world that really needs credibility. Most of our interactions these days are either over the phone or on the internet, and we just can't build the kind of credibility that we can in person or with physical objects or with physical pieces of paper. There's something psychological about getting something tangible from someone, either in response to a transaction or as part of a relationship building situation. And so that's the reason that we like to use information packages. And we like to have the best package in our industry, whatever that is, whether you're a flight school or whether you're a provider of a particular item or something like that. You want to make sure that you have the best package.
All guests have been muted. You can unmute your line by pressing *6.
And you want to really stand out, because a lot of people, when they're shopping for a product or service, will request information from 3 or 4 different companies. And so if they're basing that decision, and they'll sit around in a boardroom with the packages from each of these companies that they've requested information from, and you really want yours to stand out. There used to be a joke, John, I think you told me about professors that used to grade papers by weight.
It wasn't a professor, it was actually my client.
Oh, heavens. Seriously?
Absolutely. Yep. I provided him with actually it was a project plan.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, this isn't worth the money I'm giving you. It's not enough pages.
It's not enough pages. He didn't care about quality, he wanted quantity.
Yes.
Okay, and I think there's something of that, valid or invalid, when we when someone pays us a lot of money, especially for something intangible like insurance or consulting or something along those lines, they sometimes feel like, well, what did I spend all that money on if they don't get something tangible in return? And it's an irrational thing, but that doesn't make it any less real. So that's something that we like to try to address by providing an information package that is substantial, that is credible, and all of those things. Another word for this, or one of our marketing teachers calls this a salesman in a box. You know, if you are not in a room while your product or service is being evaluated, your box of materials is in that room. So you're being judged and evaluated based on your attention to detail, your generosity, your style, you know, all kinds of things based on the information that you send someone. And that's why this is so important. This is your question, John, when we were writing this this course. You're like, why should we spend more money on this?
Great.
Do you want to explain your concern, or, you know, what popped into your head why you said that?
Yes, actually, because I think we were considering sending out something to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, so what's the ROI?
Mm-hmm. Why should I spend money on this? And John's our CFO. You know, so if you don't understand how our company works, basically I spend money. He tries to prevent me from spending money, and that's kind of the nature of the business. And it's actually a very good thing because I justify, you know, what we need to spend money on, and he acquiesces, and that's the way that works. At least if there's a good justification, we go that way.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, you shouldn't be spending money on anything that is not getting you more customers. And so you really need to test this the same as you test anything else, you know, to find out how much money are you spending on this and how many new customers are you getting as a result of doing this as opposed to not doing this. The caveat to that is that you want to give it a fair test. You know, when you try something new, you want to have what they call a statistically significant number of people. So you send one information package, it doesn't get a response. That doesn't mean that you should stop sending information packages. But if you send 10 or 100 and don't get any better response than you would without sending a package or by sending a less elaborate package, then there's your answer. You know, it's not worth the money. So that is how we figure it out. So the numbers we have to know before we decide how much we can spend to acquire a customer, and this includes more than just information packages, by the way. It also includes advertising and every other means of acquiring customers. You know, trade shows, traveling to networking events, all of those things cost money. And all of that adds up to a couple of numbers that I'd like you to calculate based on what you know. The first number is the lifetime value of a customer, CLV or LV. And you can calculate that based on the amount of money that your average customer spends with you per year times the number of years that that person remains a customer. So, you know, whether you have a single transaction or, you know, like us, you have a subscription model where people pay every month, you know, whatever the situation is. You figure out this customer is worth X amount to me per year, and they stay with me for an average of 4.5 years. So then I would have X times 4.5 is my customer lifetime value. And the longer you've been in business, or the more data you have, the better this data gets, or the more accurate these numbers get. So if you've only got one customer, your average isn't going to be very accurate. But if you have 100 or 1,000 customers that have done business with you over the years, you'll have a lot more. So customer lifetime value, very important number. You need to know that. Another very important number is your conversion rate. So for any given campaign, that would be the number of emails you send, number of clicks on your website, any number of things. What is the ratio of people that take the next step in your process and convert to the next stage in your marketing process? And whether that is to click a link or to buy a product or to set an appointment or to download an ebook, whatever the next step is in your marketing process, every step should have a conversion rate of how many of those steps lead to the next step. And then the next number that you need to know, and there's only 3 of them, so this isn't horrible for those of us that are not fond of math. Last number is the total cost to acquire a customer. Okay, and there's a couple of ways of calculating it. Probably the easiest one that is not incredibly accurate because there is some bleed over from year to year is to calculate, like for 2012, we've got a full year of data. How much did we spend on advertising, networking, events, trade shows, information packages, whatever we did to acquire a customer? How much did we spend on those activities, and then how many new customers did we get in 2012? And like I said, that's not going to be perfect because you're going to have some people who have been, saw an advertisement in 2011 and signed up in 2012, and so on. And you're going to have people that you're advertising to in 2013. Is there a better way than that, John? Do you know?
No, that's probably overly simplified, but yes, that's correct.
I know you probably do algebra or something like that, but I think you really need to have a good impression of these numbers. It doesn't have to be entirely accurate, but I would say 90% of the people that we talk to have no idea whatsoever. So even if you simplify these formulas, you'll have a better idea than you would otherwise. So you'll probably be shocked by both the lifetime value of a customer. That's probably a higher number than you're guessing. And I would bet a stack of dollars to a stack of donuts that your total cost to acquire a customer is much higher than you think it is.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, these things will, when you actually nail them down, even if you get them accurate to within 90 to 95%, you'll probably fall out of your chair because you don't really believe what you're seeing.
Exactly. Well, and the good news is that the top number is a good number, the higher the better, and the last one, the total cost to acquire, is a bad number. So the two balance each other out because they're both going to surprise you with how high they are. At least they do with almost everybody we talk to. So our advice is to send better packages, but fewer of them. And the reason for that is because you can use less expensive methods with your larger list. And then once people go through a qualification process or something like that, and we'll be talking about what that is, then we want to send those information packages. So almost everybody that we've ever worked with sends not a great package. They could improve on that. But also almost everybody that we've worked with sends them to way too many unqualified people. So here we're going to make you spend more money, but then we're going to save it for you on the other end. All right, so how does this fit into your marketing process? And, those of you who've been with us for a while, this looks really, really familiar. You've got your phase 1, advertising and prospecting activities, phase 2, credibility and sales activities, and phase 3, your post-sale activities. So people come to you by one of several means. You capture the lead and so on. Where we put the information package for prospecting is clear down here in phase 2, right? So you've captured the lead through your website or social media or whatever form that you use, or a trade show, and so on. You have gone through a cycle with emails, newsletters, new web content, and so forth. We don't send out an information package until after we've actually made personal contact with someone, and we know that they're a real person. We know that they really are who they say they are, and they really meet 3 specific criteria that we're going to be talking about in a few minutes. But if they don't meet those 3 criteria, then we don't send them an information package. We just leave them in our pre-sale cycle. We send them newsletters and so on. The reason we do that is because we want them to refer people to us. Maybe it's somebody who's not completely qualified. They're not in the right position in their organization. they're not in a financial situation to be able to afford our services. You know, whatever the reason, we still want them to be a contact, and we still want to you still want to make that happen. But you have to make sure that you are I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. You know, you still want to keep them in your phase 2, but you don't want to spend any more money on them. You're not going to close the sale, and you're going to irritate them by pursuing them any further. So that's one of those things. And then, of course, we have a closing step. After we send them that information, the next step in our process would be to close the sale. And then from that point, we send a welcome package, which is yet another one of our information packages. And we'll be talking about that shortly. So qualifying prospects. In some marketing activities, you want quantity. If you're doing an email campaign or anything along those lines, you definitely want the largest list you can possibly get your hands on. And we talk about lists in the workbook for this course, where to get them, how to get them, how much to pay for them, and you know, all of those things for the aviation industry. But for information packages, you want to go for quality over quantity. I would rather send 10 information packages than 100, you know, because I want to make sure that we're able to follow up on all of those, that we know how many are out, and so on. So that's great. Okay, so how do you qualify your prospects? There are 3 things that we look for when we're quality or whatever. If one of those 3 is missing, then it doesn't matter how much they love us, they're not going to make a purchase. So, you know, the way to find these things out are, you know, their level of interest. Obviously, you have some indication by how they found you. You know, often when they call you, they'll tell you how they found you and so on. If they click a link or fill out a form on your website, you know, they have some level of interest, maybe a low level of interest, because that's really easy to do. But if they go way out of their way to corner you at a trade show, and that's really nice when that happens, because you know at that point that they've gone to some effort to get hold of you. And then the second thing is financial ability. You know, if they are with a company that is in foreclosure, you know, then it's great to keep in touch with them. It's great to keep sending them your newsletters. You can help them as much as you would like to, but it just frustrates you and them if you're trying to close a sale with them. So, you know, we don't even bother. And the third thing is probably the most common, or, you know, a really common error among salespeople is pitching the wrong person, pitching someone who's too far down the ladder. You know, we always try to go for CEOs or entrepreneurs and other people where there is less likelihood that they're going to say, you know what, we need to run this by our board, we need to run this by somebody else, and, you know, we go through that endless cycle of, you know, if they don't have the authority to make the decision. So how do you find that out without upsetting people? John, you've had salespeople do this to you. How do they do it?
Well, they don't always succeed with me. If I have a real level of interest, of course, then just in conversation, they find out your position, your the company, and then your authority with respect to the checkbook. And it comes up in conversation. They're usually fairly smooth about it.
Okay, exactly. And, you know, this is one of the great skills of salesmanship, is, you know, being able to, you know, gauge someone's level of interest. And you can ask them, you know, who's going to be involved in this decision? You know, is there anybody else that we need to loop into this discussion? That's not irritating. You know, that's not upsetting. The financial ability is probably the touchiest of these questions, and the way that you get to that point is basically, depending on where you are in the marketing cycle, we like to let people know our minimum product, other than the master class, our minimum consulting product starts at $4,700. You know, and we let people know that up front, so that if they don't if they lose interest immediately at that point, then it saves them a lot of time and saves us a lot of time and saves them some embarrassment possibly. So, mostly on the financial ability side, at some point in your sales process, you want to let them know what the threshold is. And then that will disqualify the people that you shouldn't be spending time and money on anyway. And then that way you're not sending packages, you're not sending salespeople, you're not making trips, to see them and all that stuff when, it's really not appropriate. Does that make sense? Do you have anything to add, John?
No, actually, that's quite right.
Okay. Yeah, and level of interest, I think, that's probably the easiest. How did you find us, and what is your current situation that you think we can help you with? Just listening is really key to all of those things. All right, so lists. Do you build them or do you buy them? Our vast preference is to build because then you own the list. It's people that are interested in your product or service. You control the list. It grows over time. You build credibility with these people, and so on. Buying a list is sometimes necessary, depending on the situation that you're in, and we'll show you how to do that. Now, if you're building a list, you can use your website, your social media, and other kinds of things. They come into some kind of a lead capture mechanism, and this could be a bowl on the table at a trade show, or this could be a form on your website. This could be the like button on your social media, whatever it is that brings people to you and lets them express some kind of interest. From that point, you want to capture as much information about them as possible, Google them, get as much information as you can, and start the pre-sale cycle. And then, of course, you do your qualifying, you send an information package, and so on. But, the main thing I wanted to talk about at this point is building your list, and that's how we do it. Basically, you have some nets out there, and then you pull them into the boat. Buying a list is a lot simpler and quicker. So, if you're in a situation where you have to make some money in 30 days, or something along those lines, then there's just no substitute for buying a list. And in the aviation industry, there's a couple of places that are good to look. Of course, there's the email broadcast, and we've got that information in the written workbook for this class for registered members. If you are not a registered member, this is probably a good time to let you know that you can sign up for any of those options on our website. But these are the lists that we would use for information packages since they're physical addresses. You can go to pilotmailings.com, and basically what they've done is they've built an interface to the FAA database, and it's a do-it-yourself kind of thing. So, depending on if you could spend an afternoon tinkering with something, this is really the way to go because you can get as specific as you want. What make and model of aircraft, what particular pilot ratings, what zip code they live in, all kinds of things. If you do not have that kind of time, and if you're not really a technical person or don't have that kind of patience, call Shandi at AirPack, and she will help you do the same thing, and she will send you a list. If you need something that is much more detailed and segmented, and again, the minimum cost for that's about $500 a month is JetNet. And Jason Lorraine is a great guy to talk to. He can help you narrow down your list and figure out who you want exactly from that list. Do you have anything further, John, on that? Or?
Nope.
I never give you a chance to talk, so I'm trying to do that more. All right. So researching your demographics. Once you have this list, you're going to want to do some research. What do these people have in common? Besides the fact that they're on this list, besides the fact that they're in the zip code. Is there anything in particular about their age, their gender, their socioeconomic situation, whether they're sports fans, whether they're a particular religion, all of those things can play into what you want to send them. I don't know if you know the old marketing cliche about the Chevy Nova. Someone was trying to market a car in Mexico and they named it Nova, meaning it doesn't go, You really want to know the demographics of the people that you are working with. And, the person that was working for Ford at that time, may have done a great job of finding the perfect list and the perfect car and designing it absolutely perfectly for that demographic. All right, so yeah, you need to know your demographic really, really well, and you need to make sure that you get the details right. And then you want to create a special offer that's going to appeal to those particular people once you know something about them and about their motivation. So, and we have two examples in the workbook for this, and we don't have a whole lot of time to go through these, but just briefly, example A is a flight school that that caters to recreational flyers, and a lot of these folks are retired. They live in the South. They have a good time. They're in it for the fun and for the social experience and everything else. So the information package that we would design for them would be something like this fly-in tote bag. And we'd put some things in there like sunscreen and a cheap sun hat, something along those lines. We'd put in information about the barbecues, about the social events and fly-ins and trips that they take. We'd put in a lot of pictures. We would put in stuff from the Chamber of Commerce about the scenic places in the area to visit. Anything that we can do to tempt that person in the door, knowing what we know about them. Example B is also from a flight school, but this is one that caters to 20-something-year-old career-minded students who are looking to be an airline pilot within a year. So both flight schools, but very, very different demographics in their list. So, this information package would be one of those cheap little canvas flight bags. And in there we would include, things like pens, USB drives, things with online information, because this is a younger group of people. We would have much more concise information set up as, glossy little tables and things like that, laminated cheat sheets, things that are more appealing to younger people. And then we would also use those QR codes so that people could go online and get more information or see videos and other kinds of things that younger people, that would entice them to create a relationship with this flight school. So you can see the difference between example A and example B, and these are both flight schools. So you can imagine, if you sell something else, how different your information package needs to be. All right, so and so far we've kind of been talking about prospecting, lists and so on, demographics and things like that. When you get an RFP or a request for a proposal, you know that your stuff is going to be on the table in a boardroom next to a bunch of other piles of stuff, right? Because they're sending a request for proposal out to anywhere from 3 to 10 companies, probably not more than that, right, John?
Yeah, probably actually not more than about 6 to 8.
Okay, 6 to 8 companies, and you're going to have your stuff sitting on a table next to everybody else's stuff for the board to look through and comment on and discuss with each other and so on. So you really need to make sure that your stuff stands out, and you cannot count on these people to read everything. Unfortunately, not all board members take their duties as seriously as they possibly should. So, a lot of times they're just going to flip through it and see what looks the most professional and so on. So, of course, you have to write a fantastic proposal, and we spend an awful lot of time on ours making sure that every word is perfect. But that said, you could have a much better proposal sitting next to one that is not, where it's included in a more impressive packaging. And, boards in particular, I think, are really susceptible to the shiny syndrome, the shiny object syndrome, where they'll say, this looks like a more reputable company, it looks like they're doing better, they spent more on the packaging and so on.
Well, even if they didn't spend more on the packaging, the attention to detail, having been on one of those boards where I've had to review responses to RFPs, and you get 6 or 7 of them, you've got a week to decide. It's an immersion sort of process, and you do anything you can to deselect and get down to the 1 or 2 you care about. and the one that presents itself the best, that's one of them you're going to look at. Unless it's really off the wall, then you're going to probably have it in your final one or two.
Okay, exactly. So, that's another reason that doing an information package in addition to the RFP document is really, really important, and spending some time and energy on that packaging as well as the RFP is really important. All right, so getting it together, what we recommend what we do ourselves anyway, and you're going to have to figure out what works for you, is we have a file box, or actually several file boxes, with the components of our information packages, right? We went to Costco, we got a whole bunch of 1-inch white binders, with the slide-in covers and things like that. We have tabs, we have the printable inserts, we've got business card holders that stick on, we got all of those things, and we put them all in a file box. So when we have to put together an information package, we can either just hand this to somebody, and this can be somebody that works for a company that, maybe isn't really up on every detail of this particular proposal, but they can start the package and they can start putting things together and put it together in a standard way that we always do. So we have half a closet actually of stuff that we use for RFPs, between the packaging material and the tape and everything else. But having that all together has really helped us speed up our response time to those RFPs, and also to provide new client packages and everything else whenever we need one. We just put that on our to-do list. It gets done within a day or two because everything is there, and we don't have to run to the store or order stuff from Office Max or whatever and wait 3 days for it to show up. So, or pay expediting fees. This is even better. Assembling packages. This is John's forte. You guys found the paperclip trick? I mean, this is the kind of level of detail that really makes a difference.
Well, and this is actually a proposal that went out. Notepad, that's another marketing trick. They pull it out. Even if they don't select us, they're going to use the marketing pad. It's always going to have our name, address, and phone number on it. But you don't want that thing flopping around, so you use paper clips on the back of that, attach it to the plastic insert at the bottom, and it stays exactly where it is along with the newsletter that's behind it.
Right. And that's just an example.
It's a nit. It's a detail, but when you have a bunch of these things to look at, attention to detail is everything. Exactly.
But, the amount of detail that John spends on our packages is really amazing. And, when we have someone else put the packages together for us, John goes through every one of them before it goes out the door. And if there's a paperclip missing or a tab missing or a word out of place or anything else, the whole batch gets held up and everything stops till we get that done. And the reason being, that's where we get our income, honestly, is new clients. And, a lot of them come from RFPs, a lot of them come from people who are evaluating these packages and making decisions, not necessarily based on what we write, which drives me crazy because we write better than anybody else, I think, but based on the contents of our package and how well that's put together.
Two things. One, every piece of paper, everything that goes out in the mail is a representation of your company. And as such, you want to put forth the best look possible.
Exactly. Right. So, assembling packages is really, really important. Whatever you decide to do, you want to make sure that you do it the same way every time. And if you have, in this case, there were 7 board members, you want to make sure that every single package that you send out is exactly the same, so nobody feels slighted because they didn't get a pen, or whatever the situation is.
And it goes beyond just the package itself. It's how you package the package.
That's true. In fact, he wraps everything in bubble wrap. We put them in boxes and then send them however we send them. But yeah, that's another level of attention to detail so it doesn't get banged up by the time it gets there. Packages for new customers. Now this is, as we mentioned, a lot of times there's a little bit of buyer's remorse in the first 48 hours of having parted with thousands of dollars. And that's just a psychological thing that happens. To prevent that, what you want to do is to make sure that that transaction is commemorated, even if the product, the thing that they're actually buying is intangible. So you want to hand them something, preferably something tangible. And it may be symbolic, but there is a psychology to this that is really, really important. So things to include, and this is in any information package. You can decide, depending on the circumstances, you may want to have different things. You may want to have a basic package like we do, and then add or subtract things depending on whether it's for a new client or whether it's a proposal or whether it's a prospecting situation. But one thing you definitely want to have in there is a personal note or a letter. And we'll show you some examples of packages later where, it was a fantastic package, but there was no note or letter, and it took me forever to figure out who sent it to me. A contents list or instructions for use, something along those lines so they know, why are you sending me a flashlight or a candy bar or whatever, Books are always excellent, especially if you have written a book or if someone in your company has written a book or something that promotes you as a subject matter expert. If you do not have your own book, you can always use someone else's. If we run into someone and in our conversation on the phone, I discover that there's a book that I would really like to recommend to them, I'll just go buy it from Amazon and stick it in their box. And the reason for that is the cost of a book, $9, $10, $11 if you're on Amazon Prime, you can get them fairly inexpensively, compared to our acquisition cost of a customer, and they're usually so impressed that I would recommend a book whether or not they become a customer. And whether that's on a topic like prospecting or pricing or, whatever the conversation was about. DVDs and multimedia items, and again, this depends on the demographic that you're sending it to. If you're sending to an older demographic, you want to use the shiny, round CDs or DVDs like this so that they know exactly what it is and exactly how to work it. If you're sending to a younger the folks that you're sending it to. Logo merchandise. We don't usually recommend that we give away a lot of things at trade shows and things like that, but this is one place where you can use up those items in a way that's really worth something because they get them at one time. It's not like they're coming home from a trade show with a bag full of swag and they don't remember who gave them this pen or that pen. It's something that came in the mail to them unexpectedly, and it's generally speaking a higher impact with that item. You want to include a special offer. Now, if this is prospecting, of course, that's easy because, of course, you have something that you want to sell them. If it is a new customer or somebody else, you may want to offer them, bring a friend to your first class and save $50, or, get a free book or something like that. If it is an old customer and you're wanting referrals, then your offer will be about referrals. Other things to include a fun gift or a surprising item. We like to use brownies for new customers because they are unexpected and surprising. But, food goes over really, really well, especially for new customers. Just make sure it's not something that's going to melt and destroy your package. And unique or thoughtful packaging. We talked about those tote bags or flight bags. There's other folks that use like a disaster recovery kit or, whatever, something that's really going to capture people's attention. We've done bank bags, those little vinyl bank bags with a zipper on the top as packaging for information packages in the past, and that's gone over really well. And also a response device of some kind. So you want to make sure if you're putting all this effort together, you want to make sure that they are able to respond to you and they know exactly what to do. Confused people don't do anything, so you want to tell them, when you open this box, call this number, or, whatever the situation is, and you can include that on a personal note or letter. or in the contents list or instructions for use. However you want to do that, you want to make it really clear to that person when they open the box what you want them to do from that point forward. So we're really good at telling people what to do. That's one of our forte. Okay, this is a disaster prevention kit. This is an example from Mike Capuzzi for one of his technical clients or software clients. And you can see he packaged it in a nice little tote bag. He's got some certificates in there and books and things like that. And that's a pretty neat little kit. This is a scheduler appreciation package. I don't know if Brad Elliott's on the phone. Brad, are you here? We'll give you a minute to unmute if you are. Universal Weather and Aviation knows that it's one of its primary constituencies is schedulers. And one of the things about schedulers is they work with, they talk on the phone with, the high rollers in society, but they're often really the unsung heroes or the ones that never get noticed. So I think it's really brilliant that Universal Weather and Aviation sent this package to schedulers saying, we love schedulers, we appreciate what you do, we understand how hard it is, we're going to try and make it easier for you. We're sending you some fun little toys and also some useful resources. This business aviation planning calendar is really cool. You can get it online if you look up Universal Weather and Aviation business aviation planning calendar. It's also in the printed workbook if you get that. It has all of the high traffic events, like the Super Bowl and Kentucky Derby and all those things that people like to fly into. It has all the industry events. It has the hotel planning days. It has, all kinds of information which is really helpful for people that are scheduling private aviation. So I think this was a really good job of targeting their demographic, putting together a neat little package that didn't cost a whole lot of money, but, was really noticed. And in fact, the way that I found out about this is Brad posted it on his Facebook page and said, look what I got in the mail today. And that's exactly what you want. You want people talking about you. This is our basic package, and then we put all kinds of other things in this depending on the circumstance. So, like I said, we get these white binders from Costco. We put in a newsletter, a CD, a little notepad that says great marketing ideas across the top. So when they write on it, they will think, oh, here's a great marketing idea. I need to send this to ABCI. A postcard that has a QR code on it, so we're trying to hit both ends of the spectrum there with the older people that put a CD in and the younger people that click a QR code. We've got a referral card, and this is, and then we also have our response device, which is a faxable sheet that also has a return address envelope with a stamp on it. So not everybody has a fax machine these days, and some people are just more comfortable with mail, so we use that both ways. And then depending on who's contacted us for what reason, we put any number of other things in this binder. So it could include our 31-point usability checklist of the website. It could include the competitive analysis. It could include a proposal. Or any number of things depending on what they've purchased from us. Or it could be the welcome kit for masterclass. So if you've joined the masterclass, you've gotten something along these lines or something much larger, depending on which version of the masterclass you got. Do you have anything to add to that, John? You've seen more of these than you could shake a stick at.
That's true.
Probably never want to see another one again.
No. It's just, you covered it quite nicely.
Cool. All right. There's a company we work with called Melaleuca that sends a kit that we really, really like. We thought this was really well done. It's got a checklist here. They've got a really visual presentation that's in a flip chart. They also have a DVD of the same thing. So you've got your high-tech and your low-tech version of the same information. And sometimes that's a really good way to beef up your kit if you're not sure what else to include. You can include the same information in more than one format just to make it more convenient for the people that are getting it. They've got a magazine, some catalogs, some how-to guides, all kinds of stuff in here, and it's packaged in a neat little box. So we really like this. One thing also that I think is really helpful, and I know this is not aviation, but it can easily be adapted, is this partner guide. One of the things that's included in this, and you really can't see it, but it's what they call a partner guide, and it includes information from a lot of their companies that they have marketing agreements with. So if you have, for example, a charter company, you may want to do business with a limousine company, a catering company that provides your in-flight meals and things like that, a bed and breakfast, that's at a location that you fly to all the time. There's always companies that are suppliers or, that serve a lot of the same customers that you do, and you can provide services for them by creating something like this partner guide. And then, you can include it in your information packages, and they can include it in their information packages. So it's kind of a twofer. You can kind of go in on the expense to get that created, and then you both have access to that tool to use to promote your company, to make it look larger, more inclusive, more helpful, and so on. And also, your partner can do the same thing.
Sometimes it's easier. Sometimes it's easier to sell packages rather than each company sell the same thing to the same person in series.
Exactly. And if you can provide a one-stop shop, if you do like a charter company that takes people to a convention, you can have a complete convention package that includes the hotel, the airfare, a car, a dinner, a networking dinner, something along those lines, and even include something special like catering on the airplane or whatever you can include to make that package more special and meet the needs of the people who are. Because people buy solutions, they don't buy products, right?
That's what they say.
You don't believe that?
Well, of course I do.
Of course you do.
It's just a rather old line, but it's true.
Yeah, it is a very old line. Williamson Printing, this is one that was absolutely astonishing. This is a huge box, and he sent, I have to say, the printing is fantastic. And he sent all kinds of samples of different kinds of things, and you can't see them all really well here. There's some 3D things. There's some neat electronic toys that have to do with printing, variations of QR codes. There's some, like the pop-up books. There's some neat little effects that they can create with different products. They do metallic paint and, all kinds of stuff that most printers don't do. So to showcase this, he put all of this material in an enormous box and sent it to me, which is great, but I couldn't find his contact information. And, I remembered having a conversation with this person on the phone, and he said he would send me something, so I didn't bother to take down his information because I was rushing from one meeting to the next. And I remembered we'd had this conversation, and he said, yeah, let me send you a package. And I'm like, okay, great, here's my address. So he sent the package, and I couldn't remember how to get hold of him. And there was nothing in here. I've got an address, but, I don't remember the guy's name, no phone number, nothing else. I ended up going back through my email to see if he had confirmed the appointment on the phone. So I found his name, but it took me a while to do that. So, lesson number one is make sure you always have those things that we listed and have a neat little checklist, because it doesn't matter how fantastic your package is. If people don't know what to do once they get it, that's a problem. But the good things about this, I think he gave, enough material for me to really realize that this is a guy that can do, if I had a campaign idea, he would probably be the first person that I would call, especially if it was a little bit off the wall, because, I can see there's a lot of things here that are not the usual sort of printing. So, I thought the volume was great in this case, and the quality was fantastic. All right, so here's our checklist. Calculate these numbers. The lifetime value of the customer, And remember how you do that? John, anybody?
Review with us, please, step by step.
Okay. You calculate the lifetime value of a customer by figuring out if your customers typically have a lifespan of 4.5 years, and you know that's about how long they maintain a contract with you, and they spend $100,000, then that's, you tell me what that is.
It's a little less, a little more than 20,000 a year.
Okay, there you go. So, well, 20,000 a year times 4.5 is.
You said 100,000. You gave us the number first.
No. I said if that customer spends $100,000 a year, and you said it's 20,000. So.
Oh, yeah.
Pick a number you like.
Okay. So $450,000. That's fine.
Okay. So the amount that they spend with us every year is.
You said 100.
Okay. Well, we're using an example. I wanted to make it round numbers, but now we've confused people, so we need to do it again. So. Pick a number for the amount that they spend with us with company A every year.
It's simple. You just multiply that number times the number of years.
Exactly. Okay. So if they spend $10,000 a year times 4 years, that's $45,000. That's your lifetime value of a customer, right?
Okay.
Okay. Did I get that right? I just want to make sure we're leaving people with a good example so they'll remember. Not like last time. Okay. Current conversion rate. This would be the ratio of people who perform a certain action, whatever the next step is in your marketing process. So if you have a number of people that visit your website and then you have the conversion rate to clicks, or if you have the number of people that you send packages to the number of people that purchase whatever was offered in that package, that's your conversion rate. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You're going to remember it? Okay. Next one is the total cost to acquire the customer. Do you remember what that is?
Is this a test?
Yep, it is a test. I just want to make sure that everybody remembers so that we've got it together. But this is the total cost to acquire a customer, and we use the example of 2012, and I know this is an oversimplification, but I want to make it easy for people to remember. So the total amount that you spent on any advertising or prospecting activities in 2012 divided by the number of customers that you acquired during 2012. And that's your total cost to acquire a customer. Does that make sense?
Pretty close. Yep.
Okay. All right. And then determine if a better information package is justified based on your current numbers. So if you think you need to boost your conversion rate, or if you think that the lifetime value of a customer is high enough to justify this expense, then those are factors that will come into the decision of whether or not to do information packages and what to include in them. Next is determine where your information packages fit in your marketing system. Do you want to do them for prospecting? Do you want to do them for new customers? Do you want to do them for referrals? And so on, and figure out where you want to place those in your marketing process. And it could be all of those places. All right, and then develop a strategy for qualifying prospects for your information package. And we use 3 qualifications, 3 ways to qualify a customer. And those were the level of interest, financial ability, and authority. If they don't have one of those 3 things, they are not a good customer, and you shouldn't be spending any more money on them. Or time, right?
Right.
Okay, and then decide whether you want to build or buy a list if you're prospecting. And we talked about building lists and buying lists. Research your prospects and creating an irresistible offer based on what you know about your customers. So we want to make sure that we don't call things the wrong name based on who we're talking to. We use the example of Chevy Nova and so forth. All right, decide what to send new customers. If you're going to use a new customer package. And we really highly recommend new customer packages, especially if you have an intangible product or service. Determine what things to include in your information package, and we had a lot of details on that. And then keep track of your numbers. So once you have those numbers, you want to keep track of them over time and see if 2013 is going to be better than 2012 based on what you do, and it should be. And over time, you can adjust the kit and see if you can improve those three numbers. So that is basically it. Do you have any questions before we move on to the next class and what's going on there? You can unmute your phone by pressing *6, or you can put them in the chat window, whatever you're comfortable with. Otherwise, we'll just keep going. So show your work challenge. If you're enrolled in the class at our gold, silver, platinum, or any other level, send in your homework by the 31st, and we'll send you a certificate of completion. If you are in any of those professional programs that require 2 PDTs or CEUs or whatever it is, this is equivalent to 2 hours of classroom instruction if you complete the homework. Fill out the survey and send it to us, and we will send you a free gift with your next month's lesson. And what we're sending out this month is Dan Kennedy's Marketing to the Affluent, which is a book we really like. So coming up next month is effective sales presentation. So you finally land an appointment with your ideal prospect. After you've had a night of celebration, then what do you do? You've got an appointment set for 3 weeks from today with this person that you've been trying to get an appointment with forever. Now what do you do? So we'll be talking about creating your presentation, customizing it for this client, delivering it powerfully, following up effectively, and so on. All right, so that's it. Thank you very much for joining us. Let me publish the results of our poll. Hopefully everybody got a chance to vote. And let me see if I can get this where you can see it. Does that show up on your screen?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Of course,
cool.
It was there anyway.
All right. Well, have a lovely afternoon. Thank you for joining us, and let us know what you thought, and we'll talk to you again soon.